Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, coming at you live to talk about episode 4 of the anime series Black Clover. Holy hell, man. That ending, though, I had to have been laughing for 2 straight minutes as Asta layeth the smacketh down. Can you smell what the Asta is cooking? Because he cuts this bitch in half. Practically. And I was dying. I was absolutely dying. I did not expect that. I found the overall episode to be enjoyable. It's all about Asta and Yuno finally getting to the kingdom and, basically submitting themselves to the first part of this entrance exam to the magical knights. And there's this whole pomp and circumstance where we're being introduced to the leaders of all of these guilds, if you will, within the magical knights. And, I didn't bother to memorize any of their names. I don't know how in play each of these characters are going to be and everything like that, all these leaders of the Magical Knights, but they're overseeing this entrance exam. And I was actually somewhat stymied by the fact that Asta even got through the introductory phase of this, when everyone is meant to line up and produce their grimoires and get their numerical code and everything like that. Yuno does instantly, the guy who's checking him in is completely wowed that he has a 4-leaf clover grimoire, and everyone who overhears this is awestruck and everything, and like, oh my god, that kid from the boonies has a 4-leaf clover grimoire, oh crap, and all this stuff. And but of course, here comes Asta, and his is all dirty, it's all mottled. The guy's like, are you sure this is even a grimoire? Asta assures him yes it is, and so he gets checked in as well. And but you find out that these knight sort of leaders, Magical Knight Guild leaders, are going to be overseeing each of the test phases of this introductory, entrance exam. And the first thing that comes right out of the gate are these little antagonistic birds, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. They sort of swarm around you the lesser amount of magical abilities you have. So, of course, Yuno is there, and not one bird is anywhere near him. Other people have a couple here or there, things like that, and you just knew. You just knew as soon as you saw Asta, he's got a whole frickin' swarm of birds, a whole flock of them, all on him and chewing at him and everything like that. He's like the crazy old bird lady in Mary Poppins. Tuppence and bag to feed the birds is Asta in this sequence, and it's hilarious. Of course, he's making friends and influencing people by walking headlong into this giant burly dude who immediately wants to kill him. This guy apparently was just looking for a place to have a poop, and he got lost. He is the leader of like the ne'er-do-well faction in all these Magical Knights guilds or whatever. And again, I haven't memorized any of their names. I don't remember what this guy's name was. But were it not for Asta's own physical training, his One Punch Man level training, as I've been referring to it, he might have buckled completely, well and utterly under this guy's trying to crush him, crush his skull. And you see his muscles rebounding and everything like that, and he manages to survive this. And you see, like, there's a ladies' man, guild representative. There's, like, the emo guy who just wants to die and whatever like that. It looks like Marilyn Manson. And that was, somewhat interesting, whatever like that. But once all the guild leaders are introduced and the first phase of this, entrance exam begins, this mystical, magical tree emanates down from the heavens above, and everyone gets their own broomstick. And again, the hilarity starts right then and there, because Asta has no magical ability. I'm like, how is he going to make any effect along the lines of trying to get into any Magical Knight faction without any magical abilities? He is sitting there trying to like jump off the ground on this broomstick, shades of Little Witch Academia, and everyone else is like laughing and having a ball, and he's got this one guy who seems to be utmost supportive. He's giving him pep talks. He's patting him on the back. He's like, dude, focus on what you can accomplish. Just give it your all. Just don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. Don't sweat what you can't do. He's being really supportive, really friendly, acting like he's got Asta's back. And I'm just like, why isn't Yuno doing this the whole time? But as you find out toward the end of this episode, this guy's been dogging Asta the entire time. He's exploiting the fact that Asta has no abilities whatsoever. This guy could have mid-level range magic abilities, but he looks like he is level as long as people are comparing and contrasting him against Asta's complete lack of any abilities. And so this works to this guy's favor, because they all have to pair up and go sort of against each other, fight each other with their magical abilities and their grimoires. Come the end, the sort of final round of this entrance exam, And immediately, he, of course, chooses Asta to go up against. And he emanates this sort of force field, this spherical energy field around him that's emblazoned, or whatever he said it is. It's got little cannons jutting out of it that'll probably, shoot things out of it, whatever like that. The big burly guy who tried to kill Asta earlier is like, oh, it kind of looks like a spiky bug, like mocking it. And here is Asta. This guy's just like, I'm going to wipe the floor with you. Like Neo in The Matrix, Asta's Agent Smith, this guy's just like, come at me, bro. And it was just gobsmacking when Asta pulls forth his grimoire, pulls that sword out of the grimoire. The entire physicality of his body manifest, complete, all of his muscle work, all of the power of this demonic grimoire just comes to full yield. He launches at this guy, and immediately, one strike cuts him in half. He cuts a bitch. Just lays waste. Even the brick and mortar work underneath him crackles from the power, the sheer, immense power that he just unleashed on this guy who's completely knocked out. I was dying. Laughing. It was spectacular. It actually reminded me of scenes from Dan Machi with Bel Crannell, who, he would go up against beasts and monsters and things like that, and lay waste to them pretty similarly. But it was spectacular. It was the shit. Pardon my French. And it was the saving grace of the episode as far as getting me to want to talk about it on camera. I've been really highly debating dialing back coverage on it, because someone was telling me in the comments on my previous episode discussion video that this series might go like a 50 to 52 level episode length, and that is very much sort of has me trepidatious. That's very sort of antagonizing to me. Like, I don't know if I want to make that large of a commitment for 50 some odd episodes straight without a break. It's always sort of 50-50 chance that I'm going to stick with a 22 to 24 episode series. And so, it's a bit intimidating to think this show might be that, around that long without any breaks or anything like that. So I've kind of been trepidatious about wanting to stick with it in episodic coverage, because I'm just not sure I'm ready or willing to commit to 50 plus episodes straight, again, without any break. And I was kind of watching this episode up until that final sequence where Asta ripped this guy to shreds. I was like, I don't really think there's much going on in this episode that bears discussion or anything like that. And I was mulling it over, and once that final scene happened, I'm like, okay, I gotta go on and talk about that. That was too effing hilarious. That was too spectacular to not talk about, to not engage with people about. And so I will kind of loosely say, for the time being, I may decide to dial back coverage on this show. I haven't made any decisions as of the time of this recording as yet, officially or not. Depending on how long this series is going to be, I'm still interested in it. I still want to watch it. I just don't know if I want to make the commitment to have to come on every week for 52 weeks, or whatever it's going to be, to keep talking about it for that length of time, that kind of thing. And that is also barring whether that's even true or not. If that is the length of the series, that remains to be seen. I haven't heard anything about that, officially or not. Haven't looked into it as of the time of this recording. So it remains to be seen. I'm going to tentatively say, do not be surprised if come next episode there are no videos talking about it, no more video coverage. That could be a thing. It all depends on what happens in the next episode. If something as resounding and spectacular or emotional happens, as was the case in this episode, and as was the case in the previous episode, I will probably be back here to talk about it, and I'll probably just keep talking about it as long as I'm compelled to. But it all just, it begs the question, will I be compelled to, and for how long? I really don't think I'm going to stick with a 50-plus episode series. We'll see. But I loved the hell out of this episode. That ending made it just gangbusters to me. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of this episode as well. If you've seen it, if you enjoyed it, if you are familiar with the source material, do you like the translation? Is it compacting anything, omitting anything? Is it a pretty good translation from source material to anime, such like that? And what your overall thoughts on this episode were. Did you agree? Do you agree with me that the saving grace was Asta laying the smacketh down on this guy who was dogging him? Once he figured that out, he just laid waste to this guy. Again, I was dying. Love it or hate it, anything goes in the comments below. Our POVs can certainly disagree as long as we just have a great conversation. And so, yeah, otherwise, it'll be pretty much it for me on this. If this video finds you well, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.